The Second Amendment states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Gun. A weapon incorporating a metal tube from which bullets, shells, or other missiles are propelled by explosive force, typically making a characteristic loud, sharp noise. Historically, the people of the United States owe a lot to this machine. Not only did it aid in securing our independence from the English in the American Revolution, it has also been an implement used to provide life necessities for millions of Americans through responsible practices of hunting. However, firearms are also an implement that can be utilized to endanger or even take human lives, and we have unfortunately seen this occur in the past. Many of Americans have voiced their extreme discontent with the current state of firearms policy, which is reflected by the legislation proposed by the anti-gun lobby in Congress. However, just as many Americans wish to retain their right to bear arms, and their wishes as constituents have also been reflected in our legislative process. Our nation is thoroughly divided on the issue of the Second Amendment morally, demographically, and legally. In order to investigate this issue, we delved into the tumultuous waters of firearms politics and consulted our supreme legislative document, the Constitution.
One of the most fundamental issues facing both factions of the firearm debate is the nomenclature of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment states that, quote, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, end quote. Controversy has arisen as to the interpretation of this amendment. Supporters of a living constitution believe that the meaning should fluctuate with changing society and the values it upholds, arguing that the amendment only permits militias to carry firearms, and because there is no real application for militia in modern society, the Second Amendment is no longer applicable.
And all that rubbish about being a militia, everybody misreads that. It's not what it says. It says, if you are a member of an organised militia, you are allowed to own a gun. It doesn't say you can own a gun, full stop, as part of an organised militia. And that's not what everybody is, right? That was fine 200-300 years ago because you had the English, weren't you? You rebels, you terrorists. That's what you would have thought, you were terrorists. I mean, you kicked us out and God bless you.
The truth of this is the Second Amendment clearly envisions a well-regulated militia. Whether the Founding Fathers thought that it was important to have civilian gun ownership as a deterrent for tyranny, the Second Amendment itself clearly envisioned government regulation of the militia. The Supreme Court said that when the framers referred to the militia in the Second Amendment, they were referring to common citizens, the body of citizens capable of coming out and ready to grab their guns at home and be ready to fight in an instant. But that militia would be well regulated by the government.
Originalists, on the other hand, believe that the Constitution should be interpreted literally, without regard to changing morals. They contend that an individual can utilize a firearm without connection to a militia, citing the amendment's usage of, quote, the right of the people, end quote.
Some people actually argue the wording of the amendment. So do you think when they say a well-regulated militia, do you think that means an actual physical militia, or can anyone own a firearm in the United States? Because there's an argument about that going on.
Sure there is. And then the next part, what does it say?
It says, being necessary to the security of a free state and the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall be infringed.
The people. That's what my definition of it is. I don't know if there's anything to argue about it. Whether you have an active militia or a subdued militia, I think there's a big reason that we haven't had a whole lot of war on the shores here in the United States. Because we do have probably the largest amount of guns in the world. And people know it. They're gonna walk into a bad situation. But no, there's a lot of arguments on the definition of the Second Amendment, but to me it's pretty clear.
Self-defense is statistically one of the most cited reasons for owning a firearm in the United States. According to a Pew Research Center poll conducted in 2017, 67% of gun owners claim self-defense as a primary reason for owning a gun. The question of whether or not civilians should actually own such powerful tools is often what leads to the most controversy between the left and the right. We consulted Steve Schultz, a veteran of the Vietnam War, to address the paramount question: should guns be accessible to the public?
For a lot of people in this country, people don't realize that a lot of people have to have their guns in order to survive. They use it to hunt meat. A lot of people use their weapons for personal protection. There's a lot of. I used to carry a bank bag every evening from my office down the street to the bank, and that bank bag would have tens of thousands of dollars in it. I did not carry a gun then. My awareness was not such that I should have, but looking back, I was crazy not to have. The area that I worked in was extremely violent, and I could have been robbed at any point in time. But no, guns are absolutely necessary. They'll never go away. You got to learn to live with them.
To gain an expert's insight into firearms applications as a tool of self-defense and crime prevention, we consulted Terry Box, the former Collin County Sheriff and former head chairman of the Sheriff's Association of Texas, with over 40 years of law enforcement experience.
Well, you never really know how much could be prevented, but those people who want to have their license to carry or trained or defend their family or to defend their property, I think they ought to have the right to do so. I think we see in the news more and more where people do not have a weapon or know how to use a weapon, and their family or their life get taken.
In the hands of individuals, firearms can either be used for protection or for malice. This begs the question: will gun control or the banning of guns truly stop violent firearm crime, or will it only infringe upon the rights of law-abiding citizens?